shooting like 2,000 frames per second.
Right. Yeah. I seen that in the behind the scenes. How they shot that.
How much fun. Okay, we're out there for 9 months, but we have all this stuff, and we're cameramen just strapped to the head. Like, we get to blow up 5Ds. How much fun would that be, man?
So we talk about the actors not enjoying, what was going on. The crew had a ball, I'm sure. The crew had a ball. So, that's that give and take. The actors are getting paid more than the crew, but the crew is having a really good time shooting this film.
What'd you do yesterday? I blew up 12 5Ds. Right? Oh, man, I love. And also, another thing that I love about this movie is, so I've been covering some interesting films lately, and I know this is going to be a really weird segue for me, but movies like Back to the Future, where everything ties together, or Tremors, which I'm going to say it, everything ties together.
Wait, how many Tremors were there?
Not enough. I love them all. But so in the beginning, Kevin Bacon is peeing off a cliff. That's the same cliff that the graboid flies out at the end. Everything in that movie is set up in the beginning. Okay. The fridge, the everything's set up. But I love it. But this movie, it starts with Mad Max getting captured, right? And then you learn he's a universal blood donor, which comes in handy later. And then you have a very long chase scene. And then they go back to the Citadel. Right.
Don't forget the sandstorm.
Yeah, the sandstorm. But just the economy of that's a brilliant way to get all those people off their butts. The economy of the script. We start at the Citadel and we end at the Citadel. We have the universal donor. We have the green place that doesn't exist anymore, but there still are seeds, and there are still those ladies who come back and help, and they're badasses, by the way. I love all those ladies, and it's just they go back and forth. That's the movie, and that's simplicity right there. What I'm saying is, but I love movies that the raid, right? They have to fight their way to the top. I think once you have that simple story, I think you can really build everything else around it. I love just the economy of the script in this. I love that, like the little moments when Immortan Joe runs into the home of his wives. He just screams out "Splendid" because that's the one he loves the most. And I love you have Capable. You have the different versions of Cheeto the Fragile. And at the end, Cheeto actually helps save. She's always the weak one, but at the end she becomes less fragile. And she uses her fragility to have Rictus help her. And it's just everything is so thought out. It gives me goosebumps talking about just the. And that's why I love this, and I love it when you can take pardon me for saying this, but at its core, let's in air quotes, a simple story, and then you can fill it with so much depth.
Right.
And a little bit of it is the ABC structure. Universal donor, he gives her blood at the end. It's just everything comes back.
Look, setup and payoff was done beautifully in this film. Minimal dialogue. I think that there was 51 lines for Max, maybe. Minimal dialogue. It's one of those films where, as you said, back to the essence, where it's supposed to be seen and not said. And that's what this film was all about. It was all about the visual. That's what it was about. And then with it being shot the way that it was, I think Miller said he didn't want this to look like the rest of the post-apocalyptic films. He wanted color. Yes. He wanted, because people at that time in that environment, they would cherish the beautiful because they didn't have, so this film just so much about this film was great. And then with it being nominated. So this was the second film in history to be a sequel, but to be nominated. And the predecessors weren't. Toy Story 3 was the only franchise. Well, Toy Story 3 was the only film in the franchise nominated. The first two weren't.
Wow.
So this is an epic moment for me for cinema, Fury Road.
It elevated the action genre. I think there are certain times when certain films can be elevated. I mean, maybe 1989 with Burton's Batman. Okay. And then, what do you think, 2008, The Dark Knight, with all the Oscar nominations for Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
I think Mad Max is a big step up. I mean, Great Escape, for sure. Right. I think there are times when action movies can be taken seriously. And I think more action movies should be nominated for Best Picture. I mean, there's so many brilliant films out there that just don't get nominated because they're action. But no, this is a big moment, the 10 nominations for this. I mean, okay? We're such big fans of this, but what is something that someone who does not like it? What could they say? What are some faults with this?
Too much action.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because it starts out. I mean, the opening scene is Max standing there. He eats a lizard, and then he's chased. The icon. Now, this is how I knew this was going to be a great film. The Mad Max car is an iconic vehicle, right? So iconic. If you watch Ready Player One, it's one of the vehicles that's going after the keys at the beginning for that film. That this iconic car in the film gets turned over and destroyed. Now, well, not destroyed because they actually fixed it and used it again, but it's destroyed in the opening scene of the film.
I'm gonna blow up your car. We're going somewhere new.
So something bad about this film, like I said, too much action, not enough dialogue, but it's all the things that we want to see in a film. We want to see a lot of action, but it needs to make sense. It doesn't need to be, I mean, there are films, and I won't mention the films, but there are films out there that just put action in just to keep your attention, but it's for nothing. It means nothing. It's not toward a goal, right? So everything in this film was toward a goal that had a purpose. Every single shot, there was a purpose toward the film. So, I mean, the goal for the protagonist. And the antagonist in the film, the interesting thing, Immortan Joe, is played by Hugh Keys Byrne. He was the actual bad guy in the first Mad Max in 79.
Toe Cutter?
Was it Toe Cutter?
Wait, is he Toe Cutter? People are going to kill
I
me.
don't think
No, you're right. No.
Back to 79.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
He was no bad guy.
I love that character. And this is, I guess you're right about too much action. But I think Margaret Sixel was aware of that too, because she said that they did screenings where the audiences were exhausted by the action. So that scene where they're being dragged, at the final chase scene, they get these harpoons shot into the gas tank to slow them down. Yeah. That was a much longer sequence. There were sequences that were much, 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 much longer. And she cut it down while being conscious of not hacking the movie apart. And so she said that was real. She said that there was too much action in it.
Yeah.
And then they said that audiences were mad that the finale, everyone was building towards this finale having a gigantic action scene, when in actuality Furiosa and her crew are taken up to be the new leaders and they give water. Right. People were expecting a battle then, and it didn't happen.
More?
And so people were exhausted by the action, and then they were annoyed that there wasn't a bigger scene at the end.
Makes no sense.
And so they had to throw in a few lines about, there'll be no one defending it. That's why we can go back and take it. So they had to include those lines. To do that. And so I thought that was a really interesting thing. But no, I think you're right. But I guess maybe people shy away from the sci-fi. They think it's another action movie. No, I was trying to just not gush over it. But I have another thing to gush about.
What's that?
You know how I know a movie's good. This is my theory.
I'm listening.
When you don't, Tom Cruise was so good in that movie. No, when you say Furiosa, oh man, Furiosa's a badass. Man, Rictus, holy crap, Immortan Joe, Max. Like when you know I know Mad Max we know, but when you know the characters' names, when you leave the theater and you say, oh, that character was so great. When you speak in terms of a movie, like when you talk about Jaws, Quint, Brody, Hooper, when you are able to, I think the classics are the movies, at least for me, man, like Nux in this movie, played by Nicholas Hoult. You never go Nicholas Hoult, you go Nux.
Right.
Because he's, like, I think the best movies have characters' names you can remember. And I know that's basic. But like in the future, just when you're leaving a theater, be like, do I remember the characters' names? And but I remember all theirs. Even after the first time talking about this, I remember them all.
But that's good writing. And there was an article that stated that Miller only wanted to hear the characters' first names, not their last names, if you even heard their name at all. Because some of them, you didn't hear their name, you only seen their name in the credits. And they weren't said a lot, but they were said enough because you got protagonists, you got antagonists, you got supporting cast. You say their names at the right time, they're gonna be remembered. So as you said, Nux was in the film at the right moments. His arc was great because he went from antagonist to protagonist. He went from the dark side, and he transitioned. His transition was great. His not to spoil it, but I don't want to spoil it for those that haven't seen the film.
No, spoil it. They've all watched it. Let's do it.
But Nux going out, he went out saving everybody. He went out, and the film started with him chasing everybody to get the wives back. So that transition, and even with Max, and Max didn't have a lot to say, and we all know Max's arc in the film, but when you watch it, we all get a sense of Max's humanity, a sense in the ghost that he keeps seeing, the child, a metaphor for his daughter, from the first one, the continuous metaphors dropped throughout the film. It's just a great film. And what I wanted to say about the action, there are a lot of films with action, but I think Fury Road, if you took the opening scene for Saving Private Ryan and you kind of, take that and you make a story out of that. Like, there was a lot of action. That opening scene for Saving Private Ryan, I think about excellent execution in filmmaking. That's one of them. It's not Fury Road. Private Ryan is a beast as well.
Oh, that opening scene. And what I like about that opening scene with Saving Private Ryan is there's a goal to it. And if you think about Mad Max, he gets captured, you have that scene. And then when Furiosa goes rogue, they get attacked by the Spike people. Beautiful production design, by the way, on those vehicles. Yes. But when you watch that scene, they try to spike the tires, but the tires are blocked. You learn a lot through those action scenes, right? So then you have that. Then you have the sandstorm that clears the way for everybody. Then you have the chase through the canyon because they drop the rocks. And then you have the scene where Rose Huntington Whiteley dies, and that's why the car crashes. The action scenes, I think, were written they were written to make sense, not just obligatory. Okay, we need a fight scene here. And like you just said, like, each action scene furthers the story. And I know we're applauding it for doing probably what it should, but not many action movies do that.
No, not at all. Every scene moved the story forward. Every scene. And matter of fact, as you said, it moved the story forward. And as they were going, Max went and chased them down and said, no, we got to go back to the Citadel.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to achieve this goal, we have to go back. So now, basically, Max is saying, we're going back into the action. All right. You guys want to drive out into, we're going to go right back. Same way we came, which was great. Dialogue was great. Story, phenomenal.
And I guess I forgot to mention this too, but in the beginning, we learned about the blood banks, and we learned that he's a universal donor, but he escapes. And I think the importance of that scene is we see the innards of the Citadel. We see the war boys repairing cars. We see the different caverns, the water, that they have water there.
Harvest.
Right?
Yeah, water, the harvest, the green, the vegetation they had.
And when he jumps out and gets on that hook, we realize how high up they are. We realize that there's the green, the lush. We get to see the entire world during that scene. So that's another thing of, that's not even it's not gratuitous. We learn about the world through the chase scene.
Right. The environment, the whole environment setup was with chasing Max.
And now we know about the Citadel. And you don't have to tell us. I tell you, man, sometimes it's inevitable in film. It really is. But I love being shown and not being told. Right. I just loved being shown in this movie. And I think that's another reason why it's so good. It's just, you get to experience it. And I think it's another movie where George Miller, do you think his work on Happy Feet, he won an Academy Award for that because that won Best Animated Feature, with the amount of storyboarding and the amount of the process that he went through of seeing each frame in an animated film. So he did two of those. Do you think Happy Feet helped Mad Max become the movie it was just by those storyboards and the detail that he went through?
Well, I'll say this. I storyboard my films. I like storyboarding. I started drawing when I was little, so I'm big into storyboarding. When I watch Mad Max and Road Warrior, and even the third one with Thunderdome, right? They're all very good films, very good action films. You can tell if you watch the three, George Miller, he has his signature. He's a master. So my definition of a master is when you watch his film, you know who directed this film. You know it's a George Miller production. Now, when you watch Happy Feet, I didn't know it was George Miller. You know, you can't tell that it's George Miller, but the attention to detail, and with animation, you have to storyboard. With animation, you have to go through the phases of storyboarding, previs until you get